Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Chasing Me podcast.
Hi, welcome back.
This week, we have a riveting conversation about motivation. So, Erica, tell us, what does motivation mean to you?
Oh, motivation. So I fight myself on this often because of my lack of motivation here recently over the last 4 or 6 months that I'm like, it's utter cow poo. I don't know if I can say what I want to on this podcast, but there's a part of it that seems too wishy-washy. And a word that I've been recently exposed to is a word resolve. And resolve at its essence is who you are at your core, what drives you, something that you're not going to be swayed from, something that is just your purpose to live. And I think I am more interested in my resolve than I am the motivation. Because when I think about how those two words play with each other and where does one start and where does one end is I think of motivation as that daily thought. I need motivation today to get up and go to work. You shouldn't need that to go to work, but it's the daily things are your daily motivation versus your resolve is your reason for living. It's an unwavering part of yourself is your resolve. So I actually enjoy resolve as a word better than motivation, but I just have come across this word, so I'm still exploring it. Motivation, I think, is very important, but in context, it's for me, I can't rely on my motivation alone.
Okay, it sounds to me like your resolve is similar, if not the same as somebody's why.
Very similar, yes.
Okay, so I would say that I have my resolve, my why right now. So I think that I understand what you're saying. It does allow me in my most negative or out of routine self, get back to the day to day and that making decisions daily for that why in a concrete fashion. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So interesting. I love it.
I mean, gotta love anime. That's where I found the word. So
we do have to love it.
There's a lot of characters with lots of resolve. Let's just say that. What about you? What does motivation mean to you?
So motivation for me is I think what I said, it's my why. I think that it is more of I'm motivated to do things in the moment because it will benefit me in X way, right? And I think that's what the point that you were getting to is that you can have motivation as little as I'm motivated to get all these things together for the party this weekend, or I'm motivated to get done with work quickly so that I can go get happy hour. I think everybody always has the smaller term of motivation in their life. I think that what we're talking about for you, our audience, and for ourselves for this conversation is a much bigger sense of self, of a much bigger word of motivation. So I think that's why you are saying it's a resolve for you, because it feels heavier. It feels more of a
motivation. Just seems sometimes too passive in people's lives. And but I know I struggle sometimes with understanding daily, why am I at this job? Why am I ask myself probably way too many questions on a day-to-day basis, but sometimes it's too passive for me. But maybe with finding more of that resolve, that motivation will be there, and it'll mean more to me maybe in the future.
Yeah, I think so. I think that there's a lot of things that can keep you out of staying motivated. And I would be very interested to know, for you and your daily motivations, or maybe the resolve that you once had, what were some of those barriers?
Yeah. So when it comes to motivation, I obviously, having my own small business at one point, I studied a lot of entrepreneurs. I studied a lot of quote unquote successful people. And when you listen to their stories, most of the time they're they have this like traumatizing like upbringing, or, you know, they kind of came from a bad neighborhood, one parent households, like was like beaten as a child, like whatever that traumatizing past was, but they somehow use that as fuel to project themselves out and forward in their lives. And I'm like, yeah, cool. Like that's amazing. Like it's so inspiring when you hear those types of stories. And I would always kind of look at my own life and be like, I have a pretty, what I consider, I use the word basic, but no, it's like a norm, in my opinion, it's a normal life. Like I grew up with two great parents. Like they taught me so much. I didn't have a lot of like traumatizing things kind of happen when I was younger. I mean, we all had our awkward years, and, you know, kids, young girls will be young girls, but it's one of those things that I think I was always seeking this like negative fuel in my life to like, I was like waiting for something to happen. I was waiting for someone to be like, you're never going to be anything good. Like, why are you even trying? Versus that never came. Because when I looked, I surround myself with great people. I have really supportive people in my life, like Alex and my family, like whatever crazy idea I kind of come up with, they're like, they believed in me. They're like, somehow you're going to get it done. And I think I was just like waiting for that thing to happen, but it never really did. And what I realized is that there's these like two sides of that fuel that keeps you motivated or starts that motivation. And it can be positive and negative. So instead of looking to other people and what fuel them, I just need to use what works for me. And like right now, I don't have a good example of that, and I'm trying to still find it, but it could be as simple as, and I think that's where the resolve part comes in, because if I understand what I'm trying to do with my life and the broader scheme, I think I can get very clear with what that fuel would be.
Okay. Yeah, that's really true. I mean, I think, you now don't think that you need negative fuel to be successful?
I mean, it helps. I think negative fuel helps for like short-term wins.
Okay.
But it could die quickly over like the long term, because it's typically created by someone else, like someone's existence or their words to you is something that hurt you. And that's that negativity. And you needed that other person to do something to fuel that. If that person's no longer there, or those types of people are no longer in your life, where's your fuel going to come from then? Like you have to, it can morph into something else. But I mean, negative fuel only goes so far. And I think that's what I'm also realizing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. I mean, sorry if I keep opening my book. I have so many questions. So do you think that your positive fuel, I guess, that you've had and or currently have, has all affected your motivation? Like, do you think it's affected it in a positive way, or is it in a negative way? And not to say that positive fuel is negative, but I guess, right, it may not drive you as far as you might want. So
that's where really understanding what you want is important. And I think that the positive fuel in my life right now, if anything, recently it's been more of, you know, when they say like positive affirmations, like, or like positive visualizations. I had this thing that kept kind of coming up, which was weirdly the opposite of that, like having more negative, like visualizations with, if I would stay where I'm at today, 10 years from now, how disappointed in myself would I be in 10 years if I'm in the exact same spot? And I think that that in itself could scare you.
Okay.
The fact that, you know, we were all not living beings at one point of our lives, and there will be a point of our lives that we won't be on this earth anymore. And like, if you really think about that, that's scary. Like, I'm trying to scare myself into motivation, which probably would actually fall more on the negative side. But
Okay.
I think that is also a part of it, because it's like I'm kind of feeling that now. I feel like I've been kind of in this rut. The very first episode we talked about for a good period of time, and I'm almost more angry at myself for squandering those years, and I don't want to be here in 10 years from now. Like, I don't want to be the same person I am. Like, my core beliefs will always be the same. It's like my morals, things like that. Like, they should still be tried and true, but I want to be in that next season of Erica. I want to be that better version of myself. I don't want to be this Erica trying to figure out what motivation is to me.
So for you right now, a bit of fear is motivating you to be the next best you.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what I'm using right now as my positive fuel, is looking ahead and being like, I don't want that. If I stay the same, I will be this. And I don't like that picture.
Yeah. That's always a good thing to do, because I think it's really easy to get caught up in the day to day. And it's very easy to keep your head down and doing the same thing, thinking that things might change. But if you're not forward thinking, or motivated to do and learn and have more of that growth mindset, you will stay pretty stagnant. I wouldn't say that you wouldn't change at all. I think people change regardless, just with time and external influences. But definitely having like that growth mindset really probably makes a difference. So, I would love to know from you, is having a growth mindset or a fixed mindset, what does that mean in your life? Or like, what do you think that you currently have or are in?
I'm definitely in a growth mindset, because I see kind of, I'm starting to really get down and identify like where I want to be in those 10 years, in the next 5 years, what I want my life to look like. And I have a lot of growing to do that. And that's just, it's the next step, and I have to do it, or I'm going to be wasting my life away. And that makes me really sad.
Well, and I think we need to, for our beautiful audience, understand what is a growth mindset and then what is a fixed mindset. So I'm going to quickly define it for them. So a growth mindset truly means, instead of viewing like negative things that happen in your life, you're going to view them as opportunities, right? So like, it could be as simple as maybe not getting that promotion, getting laid off. I don't even know any other examples. It only has to do with work, apparently. No.
Well, it's like working out. You get a health scare. Like, why do people wait until those moments of forceful change before you start changing? Like, I think that's a big thing.
Okay. Growth, that's a fixed mindset. Is like, I won't ever need to worry about it, because it won't happen to me. It's very young mentality, but I wouldn't say that having a fixed mindset means that you have a young mentality. I just think that like with fixed mindsets, you're really going to go ahead and view, and I have notes, you're going to view them as negativity instead of improvements on your life. So relating it back to work, because it's what I love to talk about, apparently, is if you get a critique and maybe that critique is negative and you only hear that negative, it's really easy to not view it as like some way to improve. And to have that growth mindset is to view people's negative emotions towards you and being like, okay, I don't appreciate what's happening here, but what I can learn from this is X, Y, and Z. Or I don't like how I felt there. Why don't I like that? Like, having self-awareness also, I think, helps keep you motivated, right? Because the more that you're aware of yourself, the more that like these negative external influences or maybe your own barriers won't affect you as much. And that will keep you in that motivated mindset.
Yeah. So do you feel like you're in a fixed or a growth mindset?
I think I fluctuate between the two. I wouldn't say I'm always a growth. I think that I have my own ups and downs within a month where I'm like very growth and then very fixed. And I do my best. I think in certain areas of my life, if you like look at my life like kind of like a circle and a pie, like I know that within like certain aspects of this pie, I can be growth 100% of the time. And then in others, it fluctuates and it's not consistent. So what I'm trying to do daily is stay aware, as well as understand and break down what I find as challenges into smaller steps. Is like, okay, like, you know, we met up on like not by accident on her run and my walk in the morning the other day.
Oh, I told my sister about that. She was so proud. She was like, "You went and run." I was like, "Yes, I did. I told you I was running." And yes, I did go run. And I ran into Alex, surprisingly.
Yes, she ran into me. And part of breaking down my small steps is like, I don't love, you know, working out every single day, but I'm like, I can walk for 45 minutes. Like that I can do. I know I can do that. I can walk for like 5 miles. That I have no problem with. Running, we'll get there eventually. But right, so I'm trying to retrain my habits into this like, okay, you're not currently wanting to do what is going to keep you motivated in your long-term goals. So how can we break it down so that at least you accomplish something and you have those small wins? Because small wins, and I think I said this in an earlier episode, those little small wins keep you motivated to do the bigger thing, or those bigger goals and or those bigger tasks to get you to even that bigger motivation. So that's my current process. Definitely the barriers that keep me out of that are going to be my procrastination, as well as my environment. So 2 things that I think are major, and procrastination is really just one of those things where I don't have that motivation in the moment. I really want to take the easy way out and just be like, well, it won't really matter because it didn't matter last time, you know, like it's kind of selling yourself short because like, you know that you've done it before, but like you went over and beyond before maybe for like that person or work or whatever it is that you did. And you were like exerted yourself to 100%. And you're like, but if I only exerted myself to like 70, no one would really care because like they didn't really care about the 100. So
would anybody notice the difference?
No one's going to notice.
Only Alex would notice the difference.
But that goes back to the self-awareness thing, right? So like my barrier is getting in my own head of negative self-talk of like, you're not doing the 100%. And that leads then to procrastinating doing the 100% because I don't really want to. And then, you know, my environment gets affected because I'm procrastinating in my environment, making sure my home is clean, making sure that like, you know, I have all the necessities of life, my food, right? Like I order Postmates too much. Like there are things that are clear triggers and clear cues that keep me outside of this motivation. So, and those would be my barriers.
When you were talking, something crossed my mind about, because I was having a conversation with Em a couple of days ago, talking about how you're like going 100%. So I feel like I have a bad habit of and I'm trying to identify what clicks on in my brain on these random mornings where I just get up and I do everything under the sun. I like this last weekend, I hung up all my stuff in my living room. I just like did so much. Like I did the like very checklisty things, but I just dominated those days. And then I did absolutely nothing the next day. Like it was it's like, I'm so dramatic I feel like I guess if it works for me, it works for me. But those drawn out non-productive days, I think can get away from me. So I'm curious if I did more of like an even keel a little bit more throughout the week, or just kind of like balanced it out, it would help with the motivation so I don't overexert myself. Like
it makes a difference,
because there's such a big difference between like efficient days and effective days. Like the days are great when you have like checking everything off your to-do list. So you need those days, but you also need days where like you get that one big thing done that's going to move you forward. So I think I need more of that balance. I need some days that I am focused on the checklist and just hunkering down and getting them done. And then other days I'm like, I'm good if I just do the one big thing and I can walk away and I can be happy. But what you're talking about, that 100% to the 70%, if I do the one thing, even though I know it's something that moved me forward, I won't be satisfied with that because I'm used to doing so many things. Then you're like, oh, well, I didn't do anything today. So like, oh, woe is me, and then I get in my head.
Yeah, you feel bad about yourself. Yeah.
Then you like negative talk, and then you're like, yeah. And then it just kind of spirals. But yeah, I think that's an interesting practice I'm trying to do, is like evening out my days of the week.
Yeah.
To not go so hard all in one day or 2 days out of the week. And then the other days are kind of like half productive. So I think it's maybe reducing my maximum a couple more of the days of the week and then evening it out to help with that motivation. So it's not so like spiky versus more just like kind of if it's nice rolling hills versus dramatic roller coasters or mountains would be nice.
I would agree. It definitely helps. I think that, staying out of our ruts and staying out of that negative self-talk and doing all these things that we once talked about, right? Like overthinking. I feel like all the past episodes that we talked about are kind of the things that could limit the amount of motivation we have to getting to our why and to getting to our resolve. And, taking action is one of those things that we need to do in our daily life that I think we're going to go into the next episode about and really deep dive into like how do you take action to stay motivated? How do you do all these things? And, taking into consideration what we talked about all in our previous episodes. And if you haven't listened, please, we would love for you to go and listen. But I think that we can talk about and help you guys as well as ourselves in the daily practice, in a realistic daily practice as to like, what can we do to really make sure that we stay consistent and we stay motivated for our why or getting to our why, right? Yeah. Like those are the goals and I love it.
Understand what you want in life and life gets a lot easier.
It helps. But we appreciate you tuning in.
Yes.
Thank you so much. And we'll talk to you next episode about action. So
we're taking action. All right. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.